Today, we're diving into a foundational belief in Islam, one that stood for over 1,400 years. The idea that the Qur'an is inimitable, that it's a text that literally cannot be replicated by any human being. And that brings us to this central, really profound question. Could anyone at all, past or present, write something that could even compare to a single chapter of the Qur'an? Well, for well over 1 billion Muslims around the world, the answer is a clear, definitive no. This belief in the Qur'an's inimitability is really a cornerstone of the faith. So in this explainer, we're going to break down the main arguments that Islamic scholarship has presented to support this idea. All right, so here's our roadmap. We're going to look at 4 key pillars supporting this belief. We'll start with a direct challenge laid out in the text itself, then move to its unique linguistic structure, its claims about knowing the unseen, and finally, its incredible power to transform people and societies. So this first argument, it's as direct as it gets. This isn't some later interpretation. It's a test, a challenge that's explicitly written right into the pages of the Qur'an. And here it is. The text essentially looks at anyone who doubts its origin and says, okay, if you're so sure this is man-made, then go ahead, produce just one chapter like it. It's a direct challenge to all of humanity. And what's really interesting, according to the sources, is that this challenge was actually made easier over time. At first, the call was to produce a whole book like the Qur'an. When that went unmet, it was reduced to just 10 chapters. And then finally, it was brought down to what seems like a simple task, just one chapter. And the core of this whole argument is just that. Since the 7th century, an era famous for its absolute masters of Arabic poetry and language, no one, they argue, has ever successfully answered the call. Not for the whole book, not for 10 chapters, and not even for one. So, building right on top of that unmet challenge, the second argument kind of pivots. It's not just about what the text says, but how it says it. We're talking about the very linguistic fabric of the Qur'an. There's a special term for this, ijaz. So, ijaz, that's the word for this concept of imitability. It's the idea that the Qur'an's style, its structure, its language, it's all so unique that it's just beyond what a human being is capable of producing. And this slide really gets to the heart of it. You know, on the left, you've got our normal, everyday language. It's pretty straightforward, usually has one main meaning. But on the right, well, this is where scholars say Quranic Arabic is completely different. It's multi-layered. Words can carry several valid meanings at the exact same time, creating this incredible depth and density. They argue that its style just doesn't fit into the known categories of Arabic poetry or prose from that time, making it something totally new, something that can't be imitated. Okay, so from language, the third argument shifts to content, specifically to information that, according to proponents, would have been totally impossible for any person in 7th century Arabia to know on their own. The Quran often tells these detailed stories about past prophets and civilizations, but then right after, it'll often include a line reminding the Prophet Muhammad that he wasn't there, that he couldn't have witnessed these events himself. This is meant to frame that knowledge not as something he learned, but as something that was revealed to him. Now, this timeline shows the other side of that coin, knowledge of the future. And this is a big one. Around the year 615, the Byzantine, or Roman Empire, was getting absolutely crushed by the Persians. Things looked bleak. But then, the Quran predicted that the Romans would be victorious in a matter of years. I mean, at the time, that must have sounded crazy. But if you look at the historical record, by 627, the Byzantines had turned it all around and won a major victory. All right, this fourth and final argument is a little different. It's less about the text itself and more about what it does. Its observable, real-world impact on people and on entire civilizations for centuries. So at the personal level, the argument is that the Quran has this deeply transformative power. It's not just a book you read. It's seen as a source of spiritual guidance that actively shapes a person's life and character. Even the simple act of reciting it is considered a powerful transformative practice. And then, if you zoom out from the individual, this argument points to the Quran as the very blueprint for a whole civilization. It laid out the spiritual and legal foundation that influenced everything, from law and government to science and art across vast empires. So, when you put it all together, you can see how the belief in the Quran's inimitability isn't just based on one thing. It's really built on these 4 interconnected pillars. So the crucial takeaway is this. The claim rests on a cumulative case. You've got the direct challenge that has apparently never been met. You have a linguistic style that's considered totally unique. You have information about the past and future that was supposedly unknowable. And finally, you have its massive world-shaping impact. So, no matter what you personally believe, this enduring power of the Quran raises some fascinating questions. What does its unique form and incredible influence tell us about how language, faith, and civilization are all tied together? And how can one single book continue to resonate so deeply with so many people more than 1,400 years later?